First of all, introducing our challenger.
Out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in and he does. It's all over.
Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
What's a good word, mixed martial arts fans? Welcome back to another edition of the Eternal MMA Insiders Podcast, fresh and rejuvenated for the year 2023. My name's Luke, I'm your host, and today joined by a man coming off a very successful weekend, not even a week removed from his big win at Eternal 73. He's the former Flyweight champion for Eternal MMA, of course, the fighting pride of the Wilkes Mixed Martial Arts Academy out of Perth, Western Australia. You know who I'm talking about. It's the Astro Boy, Stephen Erceg. Stephen, how you doing today, man? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Definitely on a high at the moment.
I don't doubt it, man. On a high because not only did we get the big win at Eternal 73, but off the back of that, we got some pretty big breaking news. A lot of people already know about this, but for those who don't know, or those who might just want to even hear it for a second time because it's fantastic news, why don't you just brush us up, mate?
Yeah, so straight after the fight, basically, as I was leaving the octagon, I was heading out the back to sort of celebrate with my family and everything. I got ushered out behind a curtain, and even Mick Maynard and Hunter Campbell were back there. They sort of having a chat to me about my visa and all that sort of stuff, and then at the end of the conversation, they just said, "You're signed to the UFC," and I was super excited. Obviously, they offered me a handshake, and I said, "No, mate, no, I'm giving you a hug." I was very excited, and then just kept it on the down low as much as I could until everything was signed and squared away. So yeah.
Fantastic. So we're signed to the UFC. We're not even having to take the route of the Dana White's Contender Series like we were last time. We're straight in.
Yes. Yeah. I'm very excited about it. I would have obviously accepted the Contender Series opportunity, and I would be happy for it, but this is obviously even better. So
they'd seen enough, obviously. And it's no surprise to everyone that's a fan of yourself or Eternal MMA that you're going to the big time, man, and we couldn't be happier for you. Everyone's so proud. What a big announcement that is. Everyone's thrilled. Now, tell us a little bit about that moment. Did you sort of know in advance any kind of details this was a potential thing that was going to happen? Were you aware of those guys turning up to the show? What can you tell us about what you might have known ahead of time, if you knew anything ahead of time at all? Yeah,
so I knew my management were trying to get at least Mick Maynard to be in the audience, and they'd be sitting next to him talking to him the whole time. But I didn't know anything else other than that. I had you go through scenarios before a fight, and one of the scenarios was getting taken out the back just like that, having one of them say, "Yeah, you're signed into the UFC, good performance," all that sort of stuff. But I thought it was more likely that after that I get another chance in the Contender Series. So for something that you're envisioned for so long to actually happen, it's it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, so everything that you experienced in that moment was purely raw. There was no sort of setup hey, get this win and you're in sort of UFC. Obviously, you said that you had that as a potential scenario playing out, but everything we saw on the camera and everything, that was a pure culmination of a moment, everything you'd sort of thought of happening right there in real time for you.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't expect anything. In fact, after I had that conversation with Mick and stuff, my manager, Courtney, was talking to me. She had dinner with them the other day, and they'd basically squared away to be on for me to be on the Contender Series after this fight, assuming I won. And as it turns out, I guess they liked what they saw, whether it was my speech, whether it was my performance. Well, I don't know exactly what it was, but something changed their mind, and they thought, we're just going to get him an opportunity straight away.
And it was a hell of a speech, and I want to touch on that a little bit later before we let you go. But I mean, how did you sort of celebrate? I know you said you were keeping it on the down low in terms of not letting the world know immediately. But what was that next 24 hours like for you in terms of who did you speak to, what did you get up to? What did that sort of next day look like for you in terms of how you celebrated that announcement?
The only real celebration thing I did was my grandmother came around for dinner, and we had dinner with her and my close family. So no real celebration or anything like that. I think now that everybody knows, there's a few people that definitely want to go out and have a bit of a party and all that sort of stuff. But I didn't want to tell too many people, especially with what happened with the Contender. It's a bummer after you tell everybody, "Oh, this is happening," and then having to tell them, "Oh, sorry, it's actually not happening anymore." It's a bit of a downer. So I was just keeping it squared away as much as I could, except for immediate family. And that's all.
Well, you don't have to keep it hidden away anymore. Of course, the whole world's sort of finding out. Very much looking forward to see when you make your debut. But let's just keep it on the weekend. I mean, what a massive weekend for fights, right? Obviously, we had Eternal 73, had the UFC 284 sort of the next day, your new home. So, a bit of a look inside to the transition that you're going to experience there. Did you actually, I can't remember if I asked you, did you actually attend the event the next day, or was that something you might have watched from home?
No, I did attend, and I'm definitely glad I did, because I went to the Perth event 5 years ago, and that was obviously like great, but it was like didn't even compare to the event last week. It was unbelievable. The atmosphere was crazy. The fights were crazy. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was an electric atmosphere. I was in attendance myself. But I mean, what a perfect setup for you in terms, getting that announcement the day before. Like, that's a pretty sort of rare thing to happen, in that you fight on a regional card. Obviously, the best, best promotion we have here in Australia, Eternal MMA, and then to sort of set you up to go to the UFC the next day and be able to sort of see in real time what that's going to be like from you so raw off the back of that win. I mean, it must have been goosebumps for you, sort of sitting in between that, your old home at Eternal MMA and your new home of UFC 284. It must have been a surreal experience, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. And obviously, like, that's in large part thanks to Eternal. Like, they knew the UFC coming. They deliberately put a show on the day before for this exact reason, to have scouts and all that sort of stuff in the building. They went above and beyond to make sure that I had an opponent for that date. So yeah, like, huge thanks to them. Like, they're one of the big reasons why I got signed and why I am where I am.
Now, just talking to the opponent, Soichiro Hirai, he came out from Japan. Obviously, you had that big performance. You had the big first round finish, by a rear naked choke. As you so often do, you made it look fairly elementary out there in terms of like how evolved your skill set is. But did you have a chance to talk to Soichiro? Obviously, it was a big sort of spot from him, coming out to a foreign country and that sort of thing in a main event. Did you have a chance to sort of have a bit of a chat to him? Maybe you might have thanked him for coming out. Because it would have been a bit of a whirlwind for him himself.
Yeah, I mean, I had as much of a chat as I could. So he doesn't speak English, so I was talking to his translator, and then his translator would obviously translate his and my speech. But I did have a little bit more of a chat to him on Instagram after, like Translate, Google Translate, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, he's a super nice guy. I thanked him for the fight and coming out. Like, he said yes when a lot of people wouldn't. And yeah, hopefully if I'm in Japan or if he's over here, we'll train together at some point, because that'd be, that's like the best thing that you could hope for. Like, after you have a contest like that, like mutual respect, and like then try to grow together and help each other.
Absolutely, and that's a big part of your game. You're obviously ferocious in the cage, but you're such a gentleman outside of it. So nothing but respect from my perspective. Cage side, I was sitting, it looked like you guys had a lot of respect for each other mutually, of course. Yeah, just to the fight itself. Obviously, we know what you're capable of. We know there's a big reason why you have been struggling to get fights in the country. Obviously, it's been hard for you, but a lot of it is a testament to just how good you are. When you sort of entered the cage in the setup for that matchup, were you expecting to sort of get the job done that fast?
No, I don't think you ever expect to get something done that fast, even with, you just never can. It was, a mistake on his behalf. I got to take advantage of it, but I was expecting to take him to the second at least, put some more pressure on him, make him tired, and then I thought he'd be more desperate shooting then, or I'd take him down myself, depending on how I felt the fight was going, all that sort of stuff. But I did, definitely didn't expect 2 minutes in for it to be over.
Now, moving to after the fight, a little bit of a continuation of a storyline here, a bit of a trending sort of theme. The call out of Clayton Carpenter after the fight. Talk us through that. Now, to my knowledge, you were originally scheduled to fight Clayton on the Contender Series. You want that fight back?
Yeah, of course. Like, it was supposed to fight anyway. I have as far as his skill and stuff goes, I have a high opinion of him. But as far as his character, I have a very low opinion of him. I think, just some of the stuff he says, and he seems ungrateful for some of the opportunities he's had. And when I was trying to obviously push after losing my, getting denied because of my visa and all that stuff, we're trying to obviously get in the Perth card. And then he like pipes up and starts talking about how, you already lost your chance with the visa issue. Like, you shouldn't be allowed in the UFC. It's like, man, like, you're just being a dick. Like, it's not like I did something wrong. It's like something happened out of my control. What do you expect people to not get second chance and stuff like that? So, I mean, he just makes me want to slap him around, honestly.
So I feel like you might be watching the UFC intently tomorrow.
Yes, I will. I definitely want to watch his fight. I think he will win the fight. Again, I said I think he's a good fighter, but just I think his character is poor. And that's what makes fighting fun sometimes, punching a guy in the face that you don't particularly like.
Now imagine with something like that, given that we've had, the timeline of everything that's kind of worked out for you. Obviously, we touched on the fact that you had the fight at Eternal 73. You got to go to UFC 284 the next day. Originally supposed to fight Clayton Carpenter, who happens to be fighting the week after. That being tomorrow for the people that aren't aware, Clayton Carpenter fighting this weekend at the UFC. I would imagine that you would sort of look at that fight. Now, depending on when you sort of want to get yourself involved in the UFC and make your debut, perhaps you're sort of hoping that he does come out looking good, maybe unscathed, and he's ready to go for a fight with yourself in the near future.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully he wins pretty easily, or at least doesn't get injured or anything like that, and he's ready to go within 3 months, because I want to be fighting as often as possible. I want to get in there soon, like really get off to a good start in the year. But I would like it to be him, so hopefully he can turn around quick.
Did you have a chance when you actually talked to the guys at the back when they said to you that we're offering you a UFC contract? Did they lay out any sort of timeline or any sort of indication to you when they might actually like to get you to make your debut at all?
No, they didn't, but they did mention specifically to stay ready. Yes, to stay ready. So whether they want to put me in at late notice at some stage, or I don't know what exactly they're looking for. They just say that to everybody, but I have the indication they want me in there relatively quickly as well.
I mean, I feel like you stay ready anyway, right? I mean, I don't think you're the type of guy that sort of takes a lot of time off. Like you're consistently in the gym, and I think that's a big part of what makes up the Astro Boy, right? Like you're at work 24/7, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm 100% ready to go at all times. Obviously, getting a camp, you're a little bit fitter, you're a little bit sharper, but I could step in there right now, and I'll be fit enough to get the job done.
The word around the traps was the UFC looking to come back to Australia potentially later this year, but you would like to see yourself potentially in the UFC making your debut ahead of that time, or would it be something that you would like to wait? You said you want to be active. Depending on what you want your sort of 2023 to look like, you could be potentially making your debut in North America.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously would like to be on an Australia card, but I assume that would be coming around late in the year. So if I can get 2 fights in before then, that would be ideal.
In a perfect world, like what would you like your 2023 to look like? Like we're so fresh in the year, like we're still February. So, you could set yourself up comfortably for a couple of fights coming up. Like an ideal scenario for you, let's say the next 12 months, how does that look to you when you picture in your mind how your next 12 months would sort of go?
Yeah, I would, as I said, I'd like to get in as soon as possible. So if I can get April in, and then maybe middle of July, and then again, maybe November or something like that, that'd be awesome.
Now, how much of a fan of the sport are you? I mean, I know you're sort of obviously you're a fighter, so that part of you automatically makes you a fan. But not everyone actually really keeps an eye on the fights. What's sort of going on in the world? Like, if you consider yourself a fan and you look at sort of the flyweight division, the UFC, how much do you keep up with that? And where do you sort of think in terms of where your skill set is, how far you've come as a fighter, where you're at the moment? Where do you think you stack up in terms of the competition there, in terms of who your potential opponents might be in the sort of the near future when you look at the top 15 and those outside of it?
Yeah, I think some of the guys in the top 10, obviously Moreno's good. You have Kai Kara France, who's good. That Nicolau guy, he looks pretty good. So there's like 3 or so guys in the top 10, 15 that I think are actually quite decent. And Pantoja, obviously. But I think there's more good guys up and coming than there are good people in the top 10 at the moment. You got Makayev and a couple other people who I think will make a statement in the division soon. But I honestly do think I'm up there with all of them. If I can't beat them all now, I will be able to beat them shortly. I think lots of them, not that they're one-dimensional, but they've got good jiu-jitsu and good striking. They don't have everything, or they have good good wrestling and good jiu-jitsu. They don't have everything, whereas I feel like I'm put myself in a position where I am able to compete anywhere the fight goes. I think I'm hard to take down. Especially now after this last camp, I made some real leaps forward in my takedown defense, and my cardio, I didn't look like in the Cody fight, but honestly, my cardio is a valuable weapon for me. So I really do think I can push anybody in the division right now.
I mean, I think the general consensus around the traps was, Stephen, that, it was basically a formality that you were going to be signed to the UFC, that you were the biggest prospect coming out of Australia that hadn't already sort of made it there. Of course, that's now confirmed, and everyone can't wait to see you sort of get over. Just want to touch a little bit more before I let you go back to UFC 284. Obviously, you got the chance to go and experience that after the big win. What did you sort of take from that? Was there any fights that you particularly enjoyed? What did you think of the event as a whole? Like, what did you enjoy the most about that experience at 284?
listening to the crowd pump up the athletes was amazing. Obviously, like there was really good performance. Like watching Alex Volkanovski, like his level was amazing. And watching Jack Della, like he's so amazing. Like it's so cool to see him in the UFC and doing as well as he's doing. He's an absolute animal. But you're listening to the walkouts. Like when Jack was coming out, he had TNT as his song, and everybody in the crowd screaming "Oi, oi!" And then obviously Land Down Under for Volk, and everybody singing the song. You can always not hear the song; you can only hear the crowd, and the commentators are getting drowned out of the broadcast and stuff like that. It was like just that alone was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you must be picturing that, right? I mean, you're hearing that sort of pop. You must be thinking like, boy, I can't wait to get on a card in Perth and experience that for myself. I mean, what a tremendous moment that must be to sort of envision. What do you think? I know everyone's got a bit of an opinion on the Volk fight with Makhachev. In your honest opinion, what did you sort of think of that fight in terms of who do you think won?
So if you listen to the crowd, Volk won 5-0. But watching the fight, I thought he lost 3-2. It was hard honestly, it was really hard to score because you're getting so excited every single time Volk does something well. But trying to be objective as much as possible, I think, 3-2 to Islam.
Did you think that live in real time? So putting aside everything in terms of the pops from the crowd, did you think at the actual end of the fight that Islam had won, or was that something that you sort of thought retrospectively after? I was trying
to be objective at the time as much as possible. So yeah, at the end of the fight, I did think Islam won. Obviously, I was hoping I was wrong, but yeah.
Okay, you're doing better than me because I was totally sucked into the crowd. I'm jumping up and down. We're going to get oh my God, I can't believe it. So I really had to kind of switch gears over the next 24 hours. I'm sure a lot of people did. But I mean, again, like we said, fantastic weekend of fights all around. I mean, it was the first time I actually personally got to go to an Eternal event. You would know because you fought on a couple of Eternal cards yourself. It's where you sort of buttered your bread before you make to the big time of the UFC. Just the absolute level of professionalism, everything that goes on there, the show, the crowd actually blew me away at the Eternal 73 event itself.
Yeah.
You would attest to that yourself as well by being a Perth native. I've heard the commentators say when you're watching live, the crowd's rocking, but you just can't appreciate it from the TV. You just really can't get that grasp. I remember just looking around and thinking my God, this crowd is absolutely buzzing. Now, is that exclusively a Perth thing? Is this an Eternal MMA thing, or is the Perth crowd, are they just that bit extra special?
I think at the moment it's definitely a Perth thing. I don't know what's happened to the Melbourne fights and all that sort of stuff, but they used to be the mecca for everything mixed martial arts, and now it seems like they've sort of died down. And it's Perth and the Gold Coast, and I do think as far as crowd goes and all that sort of stuff, we get more people coming to watch Eternal, or any event really. Obviously the UFC would be packed out over there, like they had Etihad Stadium and stuff, but even Etihad I can't imagine was as loud as RAC. I mean, they have half the attendance, so.
No, God, no. I mean, I'm a Victoria guy, and I've been to the Etihad events, and it doesn't compare. I mean, REC Arena has definitely been the biggest and the best crowd I've ever been a part of. So definitely looking forward to getting back to more Perth events as soon as possible. Thanks again for your time, Stephen. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my man. What a weekend it was for you. Big pop from the crowd. You're a Perth boy. Everyone's going to be sad to see you go, but happy to watch you leave on to bigger and better things. So very much looking forward to seeing when that debut comes up. Hopefully you get the opponent that you want. Hopefully it's everything that you sort of dreamed of. We can't wait to see you in the next one, man. We'll talk to you again soon, and all the best for the future.
Cool. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Same to you, brother. Take it easy.